Welcome to our program. Today, our guest is StoyanYankov. I heard that you are a coach for productivity.
Yes, well, basically what I do is I help people to focus on what matters most to them.
And what matters most to them?
Well, it really depends on the different people, but usually there are certain things that matter most to people, right? Our relationship, our health, our business, our friends, our social life. So what my job is to help people to get clear what are their core priorities and then to allocate their time accordingly.
And many people have problem with productivity.
They do. Many people do. And one of the reasons I think is nowadays we live in a society where there's so many demands and we're constantly being bombarded with a lot of different choices. So you have your phone, you can live whenever you want, you can date whoever you want, you can have a job, whatever job you want. I mean, not whatever job you want, but you have a lot of choices you can pick from. And that makes people sometimes distracted. So they're taking a safe decision instead of getting clear what they really want and long-term achieving it.
And you help them to achieve their goals.
I hope to believe so.
And what tools you are using?
My background comes from a lot of different places. So basically, my story in the world of personal growth began like 10 years ago when I read a book called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari by Robin Sharma. Very cheesy title.
Yeah, and what was it about?
It was about one of these books that there is this corporate guy that gets super stressed and gets a heart attack. So he had to go on a journey in India and he found some spiritual people and then he kind of found himself and came back to the West to teach his lessons. And I thought, wow, what a great story. Maybe I should start questioning my own beliefs and I have to figure out what really matters to me. So it has been a journey for the past 10, 12 years in which I started attending different trainings and seminars, starting from Tony Robbins. There was a really great course I did with the guy from Uzbekistan called Norbekov. And then I did a coaching education. And then one day I decided, you know what, that's what I like to do. I want to be the guy who is actually teaching people, sharing my strategies, my tools, because I value productivity really highly. I love to be effective. I love to get things done and to get the right things done, spending my energy on the things that matter to me. So then it evolved into, what if I'm the trigger for people to actually live the life that they want to? And
people are looking for more meaning, and you also use tools from the movie production because you also used to make films. Is it true?
To make the story full, I actually came to Denmark to do my master's in finance. And my dream was to be a Wall Street banker because I love math. But my hobby or passion was making videos. I did some acting courses, pretty amateur, I have to admit. I wasn't a good actor. But I got really into movies. And when I graduated, decided instead of becoming a Wall Street guy and working with banking, with those kind of things, to run into movies from a from a finance perspective. So basically, I became a producer.
Oh, interesting. And how did it go? Did you like it?
I did love it. At the beginning, I didn't really know what I was doing. I just heard that you can be a producer. So I started telling everybody I'm a producer. and then, because I was organizing a film festival, one of the winners called me for coffee. And he told me, I'm looking for a producer for my next movie. And I'm like, that's great because I'm a producer. And then I started reaching out to actually established producers and asked them, how are you a good producer? What should I do?
So it was like learning by doing.
Learning by doing. This is
and
basically.
What did they say to you? How you do this right? How to be the producer?
Yeah, I was asking a lot of silly questions. And they were like, who's that guy? But I was really blunt because I didn't come from a film school. Mm-hmm. So I started asking, so how do I fund my project? I need to take care of my lights and the sound and I can rent them. Like people are like, whoa, this guy's nuts. But then slowly, you know, through action, through getting feedback, through surrounding myself with really cool people, I managed to start making more and more kind of high quality productions. And my focus was on short films, but then in turn into producing videos for businesses, more like corporate films,
product films,
commercials, product films. But I was always fascinated by using the power of the story. How can we use stories to convey a message? How can we, through stories, serve a certain purpose for a company, for an individual? So I did that for a number of years, running my own video production company. And then one day, I was doing coaching as a side gig for a number of years after I finished with the coaching education. And one day, one of my clients calls me. We had a great session, and he's super inspired, and he's like, yeah, man, I'm going to move. And we're about to close the phone. And he's like, what about the speech you were about to give? I'm like, what do you mean? Well, there was this speech you said you're preparing. Life is like a movie, be the hero of your movie. Did you put it up? Did you make a speech? I was like, you know, I'm really busy, all these video productions and my coaching clients, you know, but I'll do it. He's like, dude, you said that 2 years ago. The same excuse 2 years ago, and I'm going to challenge you now because you challenge me all the time. I give you 30 days to put up your speech.
So that's how it started.
That's how it started.
Wow, what a story.
It was in my, you know, document files, an Excel sheet, the whole speech. And I always say, I don't have the time. And the truth is I was scared. So he pushed me.
What were you scared? This was something...
I think I was scared to fail.
Yeah, like as a speaker, or what was
as a speaker?
Yeah.
Because I already had quite some confidence with, you know, making videos, being a producer, and
they take
coaching
another approach,
people, yeah.
like standing in front of this crowd and being inspiring them.
I think so, and I didn't want to admit it.
But
so
he will challenge you, and you say accept the challenge.
He gave me 30 days, and he said, "What if you don't deliver?" And he's my client. I can't really say anything, right? I'm like, what do you mean? And he said, well, you have to have some sort of punishment. So I'll tell you what, if you don't put up the speech and have 50 people show up, you have to pay me £500.
That was a kind of motivation.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, that's fair. And then close the phone. It's in the middle of the summer. And I'm like, what I'm going to do? I have all these projects. But now I have something to aim for. So long story short, 30 days later, I have 60 people show up, waiting list. No, it's not that difficult to organize an event, right? To invite your friends.
If you are effective and productive and you know how to organize things.
Right, and I was organizing events and film festivals, so I kind of knew how, but it was more like for me, and I remember, making the speech in front of the mirror, my flatmates, and recording myself with my phone, and I'm like, is it good enough? And then I go and I do the speech, and it was, I would say, maybe slightly better than a mediocre speech, the best. But at the end of the speech, there's one Chinese girl, and she comes to me, and she's literally, I'm like, hey, how are you? How are you? And she's like, that was the first time in my life somebody told me that I can be my own leader. I grew up in China, and I live in this small village where women are suppressed. So when I was growing up, men will eat on the table, and we women had to eat on the floor.
Wow.
And I'm 25 years old. I never took a decision for myself. When I have to take a decision, I take my phone, call my mom and dad, they tell me what to do. Now I came here.
It's shocking that it's still some places in the world that it still is like that. And she came here, and she came and she heard you, and you changed her life.
She came here and she said, and I did this visualization thing. I get people to close their eyes, to imagine themselves living, 5 years, the life they want to live and taking choices themselves. So she said, I came up with a story. I want to be a storyteller. I want to empower women in China to be their own leaders. Thank you. And she gives me this hug. I'm like, oh my God, this is my first speech. And if I manage to touch one person from the room, then why am I spending my time making videos? I mean, I love don't get me wrong, I love making videos, the creative side of it, but at the end of the day...
stressful for you?
Which
Because
one?
also, like you said about the book that coming back to this book that inspired you, you said that the main character there had this heart attack, this moment of, that he thought, oh, maybe I should change my life. So maybe it was because, this movie industry organizing these things could be stressful for you. So maybe you wanted to find another way and also meaning.
I mean, I wish I can give you some dramatic story there.
But there was
it was all right, it wasn't... I love making movies.
You didn't get a heart attack?
I didn't get a heart
That's
attack.
That's good.
I mean, I did have a burnout before, maybe related to overwhelming myself with way too many things. We can talk about that. But this specific moment, it wasn't like, it's enough, let me do the next thing. It's more like, I love making movies, but what really matters for me is to be the trigger for people to make a change.
Wonderful.
So if I can be the person that, through my speeches, through my consulting, through my coaching, through the videos that I'm probably going to put up with me, inspiring people, giving them strategies, if I can be the trigger for them to actually make a change, to get more clear, to start making the things that matter to them, that's the best thing ever. You receive an email or a message you didn't even remember, and they write you, I saw your speech 3 weeks ago, and I did this and this and this changes, and I'll tell you what, I'm the happiest person. I spoke to this girl at the bar, and she is now my girlfriend, or it's like, wow, I don't care if I have a bad day. What matters is
you really
what I'm
change
doing.
people's life, and this is amazing. That really you could be the trigger and make it happen. But do you think that this is important in every project, like also this that you need to have this deadline? And you need to have something that will be your reward or your punishment. So do you use this strategy when you are advising people? Do you use this kind of challenge strategy as your friend did to you, this work partner?
I wouldn't say it's appropriate for any case. I think it really depends on the person. It really depends on the situation. That's why sometimes at the first session with a coaching client, they ask you, what is your plan and what is your strategy? What is the tools you're going to use on me? And the truth is, I have a whole bunch of those things within me and strategies, but coaching is a very creative process. It's about producing some kind of a result, making a breakthrough, getting them to follow a certain strategy. But it's a back and forth process where you can't really plan so much, even though I'm the planning guy. You can't really plan it all out because you never know what is on the head of the person. So maybe for you, setting up this reward would be something that will motivate you. On the way to here, I was listening to a podcast with a guy called Ed Milet. It's a great guy, now a speaker, business guy. And he shared a really cool story. He said he had some health things and he wasn't eating healthy. And one day he went to the doctor and made some scan. And the doctor told him, he didn't say, hey, this is the pills you gotta take, this is what you gotta do, you gotta exercise. He went to him and he said, let me ask you something. Do you have kids? Yeah, I'm waiting for a daughter now. Okay. Do you want to be the guy who is holding the hand of your daughter when she's getting married? Or do you want to have a stranger walk her there? It's like, whoa, what's going on? And he asked him, because let me tell you something, what you're doing right now, if you keep on doing it, you're not going to be sticking around soon. So let's make a change. And the dude said, he got me here. I want to be the guy who was walking my daughter at the wedding.
To be there in the big day.
But he gave me a reason. And he's like, some mornings, now I have to work out every day due to whatever he has. Some mornings I don't feel like working out, but I have a meaning, I have a reason. I tell myself, you stand up and you go to the gym and I imagine myself with my daughter. I'm like, wow, that's a great example of what is the why behind. I mean, for some people, that could be the punishment. It could give you a little trigger or motivation to get you going. But what is the bigger picture? What is the bigger why in whatever you do? Is there enough intention in because, I mean, let's be honest, right? Life is not so long. It's actually pretty short and it's limited. And I wonder how sometimes we live it like we have all the time in the world, like we are never gonna die. We don't really have so much time.
And
So
you should think what you want to spend for and why. And also you change your habits. How did you change your everyday routines lately?
I mean, I always try to improve, and I wouldn't say I'm perfect in following my habits, but basically, in the good days, I have a morning set of rituals. So when I wake up in the morning, my first intuitive reaction is to grab my phone. So instead, my phone is turned off from the evening before, and the first thing I do is I go grab a glass of water.
At 5:30.
5:30. I get a glass of water, and then I start the other set of things. I have a little mini trampoline, so I'm jumping for 5 minutes listening to one specific motivational YouTube video. So I get my blood up and flowing. Then I do a 15 minutes of meditation, a technique called Vipassana. And then I have a set of visualization techniques. So I imagine, going through my day as the person I want to be, in the state, in my highest state, right? And I imagine the things that I want to achieve are actually happening. So kind of set myself, program my brain to focus on the right things. And then I have a couple of journals that I'm trying to do every day. One of them is called Morning Pages, which I borrowed from an author and a business dude called Tim Ferriss. It's called Morning Pages. And basically it is where I dump it all. Everything that's in your head. Maybe I'm worrying about something. Maybe I'm like, how do I deal with this problem? I just write it down. This was really annoying, blah, 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 blah. Just put it down there. And for some weird reason, I'm already feeling better because it's out of me and I can see it from perspective. Okay, I lock all the bullshit, I lock it there, right? Mm-hmm. And then I do gratitude journaling. So gratitude journaling is basically, I write down 10 things that I'm grateful for. And sometimes it's, I write down, hey, I had this amazing conversation with Vladimir before the show, and then I had a great show.
Cameraman. Thank you, Vladimir,
our
for
cameraman.
helping us.
And I learned some new things about acting. I was on this really cool Aarhus TV Huset show. And then I write 10 things, right? Sometimes I haven't really done much throughout the day, so I'm just gonna write, I'm healthy. I live in a pretty cool place. My parents are amazing. And I'm gonna write down things, and it kind of gets me into, it's not that bad. What I want is to get some perspective.
And also I think by this first exercise, morning routines, you are like switching off your critical thing and this worrying part. So you just, because our brain is more like focused on worrying. I think a lot of time we worry about things. So you like note it down, forget about it and move on. And the other thing is like you set yourself in this right perspective and you see, okay, I have a pretty cool life and I am active, so I can, if I don't like something, I can change it.
Yeah, and even if your life is not super cool in this stage in your life, right? You can always find something to laugh about or to appreciate. Or some people say go to an elderly people home.
Yeah,
and just go to them and ask them, what are you regretting about, right?
And usually they will say that it's people, that some of them will say that they miss, that they didn't spend so much time on relationship, or, that they were busy with wrong things.
Exactly. There's a book called Man's Search for Meaning. Have you read it?
No.
So it's a book by Viktor Frankl, and basically he's sharing his experiences. He was Jewish, and he was in one of these Nazi concentration camps. And the whole book is about how he managed to survive by finding a meaning in his suffering. And
I heard, I don't know if this is the book, but this was proven that many people who survived these Holocaust camps, they had a purpose to live after. They were thinking about what I will do later. Was this the case also there?
It was the case. He would find a meaning. He didn't know if his wife is alive or anything else, but he would look for the meaning, and he'll find meaning in the suffering, and he'll He was a psychologist himself. So he used this as a frame. But the beautiful thing about reading the book is you might have a really bad day, and then you start reading the book and you're like, I don't have no problems.
Yes, because this is this right perspective.
There's people in the world which are suffering incredibly, and my Wi-Fi is slow and I'm bitching about it.
Yeah, I have wife. I can at least somebody to fight with.
Exactly.
Always
So-
find this positive sides of your life. Yes, is it all about this?
Yes and no, because I mean you can go extreme with being positive and then you kind of blind about the things. So try to have a positive outlook, but also be realistic and stepping fully at the ground, right?
That's your advice.
That would be my advice.
That would be your advice. And let's come back to this business world for a moment, because you also are performing at startups events. What is it about?
Well, basically, as I said a couple of years ago, that was the beginning of my speaking career. But in the world of speakers, you are basically a brand. So one time you're speaking, some other time you might be mentoring startups or consulting or coaching. So there are different kind of setups. What I do with startups is usually I either go to startup accelerators. Startup accelerators is basically these 3 or 6 month programs where there's a pool of startups, for example, 10 startups in a specific area, selected and there's an investment round that's being given to
Business
them.
angels?
Yeah,
Something?
I mean, investors are investing in the whole set of startups, and they get a certain equity out of that. And then the startups receive 3 or 6 months, usually, of mentoring. I do a lot of mentoring, and I'll show up for a day or two, and I'll do a workshop on productivity, team productivity, and then we have a one-on-one mentoring sessions with each of the startups to get more in depth and figure out which of those areas they can improve on. And then we boil down the strategies, and they dedicate for something I can keep them accountable for, and then we move.
And it's good that it's in a time, like you say, 3 to 6 months, so you really can be like checking out how is it going. And
Right.
how is it going usually? There's people that start with the startups company, they have enough experience.
I mean, if you look at the statistics, the majority of the startups fail.
Yeah, it's like, I think that's in first 3 years, most of them die, is it?
Yeah, I don't know the exact numbers, but I think it's probably within a few years, up to 95% are out of the market. And one of the major mistakes they do, at least what statistics shows, is they build products the market doesn't need.
This is interesting because I hear it so often, like that people are so talented or they have a nice product, but first they don't know how to sell it, and second of all is sometimes that really, like you said, market doesn't need this product, but they think that this product is so brilliant and it's like their project, they baby, so they are like focused and pushing this to happen, and maybe this is not the right choice.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And I think I can see myself being there as well. Like, you're so focused on your product, and you build the product with the features that you want, and you put more features, and you forget to get enough customer feedback. Would the market actually want this product? Why would they use it? The best startup founders, very early on, even with the idea on paper, will create a lot of customer interviews. Who are my potential customers? Let me set hypotheses, let me set assumptions, and let me go execute as much as I can, so I don't build a product that nobody wants. A great, beautiful product that nobody want to pay for.
Exactly. It's like, first of all, start from who is your paid customer, and then try to sell your idea and who will pay for it. Yeah, in the business world, that's how it is. Yes.
Exactly.
And it's like nobody will actually do this work for you, because you have to fight for your product, and if you want to sell it, you have to also sometimes learn how to do this. Yes. And many people, I think, they don't have the skills. And there also, when you are opening your own company, I also have been there, but I also observe like how it works. It's like people want this to happen today, right now, because from this sometimes depend their life. And that's why I also said it's good when you, for example, have some other job and like you give yourself a time to make your company grow, and most people are jumping with a head in front and to the deep water, and they are like, okay, maybe I'm not a good swimmer yet, and it's okay, it's a little bit too late, be prepared. It's like you should be prepared, yes, also.
And it also comes down to being mentally prepared.
Tell us
Because I
about
mean,
it.
we have all those picture of what an entrepreneur should be. You know, this visionary woman or a guy that's just connecting the dots, making the world a better place. It's so cool. I'm going with a blazer. You know, making. But this is just part side of the story. The reality of entrepreneurship is, it's a really lonely place.
And hard
And
work
it's
every
really
day.
hard. And you have to be able to sacrifice a lot of things. Maybe the first few years of existence, you have to say no to parties. You have to decrease a lot of your social interactions with friends and family. I mean, depends on how high you want to grow, but usually when you're building a company, when you're building a startup that you want to grow, it takes a lot more hours and resources than you thought of. And I do believe we don't speak so much about it.
The price that you need to pay if
The
you
price
want,
that you need to pay.
and that you have to be consequent, and this is really like hard work and with no guarantee.
With no guarantee.
Let's be honest.
I mean, there is a guarantee that you're probably going to learn if you're open-minded. The character development side is there, but there's no guarantee it's going to succeed as a business.
It's a great journey, but it's like you don't know if the story, like coming back to your storytelling, you don't know if the story will finish good or bad. But you should try your best, be prepared, and be the hero of your story, yes?
Right, right. I mean, think about it. If we assume that 5%, it's just a very basic assumption, but let's assume 5% of the startups are going to succeed and survive. We don't even know if they're going to make a lot of money, they're just going to survive. You have a 5% chance to have a company that survives, and then you have to invest maybe 3, 4, 5 years to work 70, 80-hour weeks. And I mean, are you willing to pay the price?
You should maybe try, but also let's be honest that maybe it's not the first startup that will work out. Maybe it will be the third one. And many people, when they don't know how to deal with a failure, did you meet such a client?
Most of the cool tech founders of our time, let's say, most of them have failed miserably many times. But they have this mindset of, I'm not giving up, I'm not quitting. I might pivot, I might change my approach, I might change my product, but I'm gonna keep fighting until, you know, I make it. So it really takes a lot of failures, because then you learn on the way, then you adjust, you adapt, you figure out how to play the business game. So if you're in for the long-term game and you dedicate, and you're not, that also gives you the perspective, right? Because when you think I need to win now and this product launch has to happen, otherwise I'm gonna feel really bad, you don't have the right mindset, right? And you don't have the chance to win in the long run.
So be consequent, work hard, and never give up.
Pretty much.
Thank you for being here today with us.
It was my pleasure.